Well, the UFC 200 press conference just wrapped up here in Las Vegas, and predictably, Conor McGregor was on everyone's mind. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Helwani here in Sin City. That is Shaun Al-Shatti. That is Luke Thomas. We're all, of course, of MMAfighting.com. And Shaun, what a scene this was. Yes. Nate Diaz shows up, but they leave an empty chair for Conor McGregor. They say at the top, Dana White, of course, at the top of the press conference says, Nate Diaz will remain on the card. He will fight someone else. And then a few minutes later, Nate Diaz says, I don't want to fight anyone else. What was your biggest takeaway from this press conference?
I mean, the biggest takeaway is that the whole entire press conference was about Conor McGregor. There was all of those people on the stage, and virtually none of them got any questions about any of their fights.
Are you surprised?
No. I mean, that's what the people wanted to hear, and that's what we've all been kind of waiting to hear. The UFC hasn't said much about this. And it was interesting they left the empty chair there. It was almost as if to just hammer home the point of, you missed this, you could have been here. And it seems like Nate Diaz, no one gave the memo to Nate Diaz that he was still fighting at UFC 200, because he certainly didn't seem like he wanted to fight at UFC 200 unless it was against Conor.
Yeah, Luke, I don't know if you heard Shaun, but he brings up a great point. They put out the empty chair there almost to symbolically say that he's the one that's not showing up. But Nate Diaz didn't get the script. He was saying, I don't want to fight anyone else. I felt like that kind of backfired on the UFC. What do you think?
You were asking yesterday, should Nate Diaz come out and take Conor's back? Well, he didn't exactly take Conor's back on terms of the issues that Conor's standing on, but he basically did. He went along with Conor's plan. It's either Conor or bust for him, and for Conor, he obviously has his own parameters. That was shocking. That was shocking. You would think that they would have talked to him beforehand and gotten a sense of his temperature about this. It seems like they didn't, or they did, and he switched on him. He pulled the old switcheroo. That was it completely turned the presser on its head.
Yeah, he flipped the script on them, no doubt about that. So Dana White, his main argument is it's just not fair. It's not fair to the other fighters up there that he didn't show up and the rest of them did. From Poland to Brazil to New Jersey, they all showed up, but Conor didn't, and that's why he's not getting the fight. What do you make of that excuse?
I mean, it's an excuse. It's an excuse, and it seems to be that what they're sticking to it, right? And he said it sets a bad precedent. I thought that was the most telling thing, because you actually don't hear the UFC say things like that it sets a bad precedent. That seems to be important for them, but we said it so many times this week, it's cutting off your nose to spite your face. This fight is so much bigger than it was when we got to Las Vegas at the beginning of this week. And it's interesting, too. I mean, you have Conor McGregor watching this press conference, actively responding to the things that Dana White is saying on Twitter. It was a very bizarre spectacle, but it was fascinating, again, to watch. We've seen this play out just in public in a way that we haven't really seen before, this type of power struggle.
Of all the things that they could have said, are you surprised they went with fair? I mean, this is something. I mean, this is the fight game. What is fair?
What does fair have to do with anything? And they've got this idea that they don't want to be leveraged, which you can understand a corporate entity would not want to be leveraged, but you see fans saying, well, once one person leverages you, then anyone else can. This is so not true. The amount of concessions that LeBron James can draw out of the Cavaliers, Kevin Love is not going to get the same kinds. He might get some decent ones too. It's not true. It's not that once the dam breaks, all the water flows through. No, it's not really how it works. And it seems to me, who wins here? We talked about this. Conor McGregor is out there clearly digging in his heels. And maybe he comes to New York next week or not, I don't know. But the idea that this has to be fair, what does fair have to do with it? Pragmatic works. Make the fight work for all the parties involved, and let's be done with it.
And Dana White, go ahead.
Actually, let me add, it was interesting to watch, because you had fans here. I mean, we didn't have a lot of people at this press conference fans-wise, but they were booing just everything. It was almost the authority against, what the people wanted. The people clearly voiced what they wanted at this press conference. It's very strange.
Dana White also said that when Conor comes back, he will not be fighting in New York, which I found to be very interesting as well. He said maybe 201, 202, 203. Conor McGregor is the biggest draw. There's a huge Irish population in New York. It seems like a no-brainer to have him on that card. Were you surprised by that statement?
I was, and he kind of slipped that in at the end there, right? Like that, he didn't even really make a point of it. He just kind of added it at the very, very end of the press conference. And you gotta wonder, what are we doing at this point? Like, how much are you just doubling down on punishment just to kind of send a message? That seems, I don't know, it seems absurd, to be honest.
So what do you think after witnessing this, taking it all in, and the fans have clearly spoken? You were doing your show, you look at Twitter, you look at the crowd here, they all want this fight. And what's ironic is no one really wanted the rematch originally. Now everyone's pining for it. Do you think that they'll actually not deliver this time?
Everything is still negotiable. Everything is still in play. Don't fool yourself. They could make a deal tomorrow. They can make a deal by New York next week or whatever the case may be. Look, everyone knows everyone wins. You win, I win, the fans win, UFC wins, and Conor wins when they work together. When they work separately, the whole thing falls apart. So are they going to make it? I don't know. They seem to have still a very determined stance to not work with him, but I still fundamentally believe it is not over until they weigh in the day before, and don't ever mistake that.
What's your prediction, though? Does it happen?
So yesterday I was like, there's no way. And now I feel like the more times they interact in public, the more they're trying to posture for a solution. I do believe that. Conor McGregor saying, well, I made $400 million in 8 months. People might think that he's saying absolutely no. That's him saying, let's work, let's figure this out, but here are my terms. I'll say no, but I'm a little bit warmer than I was yesterday.
What about you? What's your prediction? Does it happen?
I agree. Yesterday, I was I thought there was no chance that this happened. Now I'm kind of leaning more towards it does. I think, again, it depends a lot on what we see Saturday. If Jon Jones wins in a very easy victory and he's able to fight at UFC 200, I think that gives the UFC far more leverage to be able to just throw that fight on and say, we don't need you anymore, Conor. But I'm leaning towards, again, the more they interact in public and the weirder this story gets, I'm leaning more towards that fight will happen.
Another note worth pointing out, Dana White said that a lot of fighters themselves said that it wouldn't be fair if he remained on this card. Well, all week long we've been bumping into fighters, and in particular a lot of them who are up on that stage, and the vast majority of them told me they didn't mind. They understood where he was coming from and recognized his power. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens from here on out. For now, though, Conor McGregor is still not a part of UFC 200. The fans want it, Conor wants it, and today we learned Nate Diaz wants it as well. For now, we're not getting that fight. All right, we are done. The weigh-ins are about to start. Check out our coverage of that in a matter of moments over at MMAfighting.com. But for now, we say goodbye. That is Shaun. That is Luke. I am Ariel. Stick around for more UFC 197 coverage.